This week, researchers at Anthropic pointed something like an X-ray at their own AI and found a room inside it that nobody built. A space where the model's thoughts light up as words before it says anything at all. Nobody programmed that room. It grew there on its own during training. Then they pointed that X-ray at a model that was cheating on a test. Its written reasoning looked perfectly innocent, nothing to see. Inside the room, two words were glowing: fake, fraud. The lie never made it to the transcript. I'll show you exactly how they caught it, but first you need to know why every lab on Earth suddenly wants this tool. Because in the same 2 days, the price of frontier AI fell off a cliff. Two of the biggest stories you'll hear about this week are also flat wrong, and I'll show you which. And the best thing I saw all week came out of a 17-year-old's bedroom. That one's last, and it's the one I haven't stopped thinking about. Start with the money, because it's why the rest happened. On July 8th, Elon Musk's AI company released Grok 4.5. And it isn't called XAI anymore. 2 days before this launch, it renamed itself SpaceX AI, finishing the merger that folded it into SpaceX. Grok kept its name, the company didn't. And I know, 10 seconds of Elon and half of you are already typing. Put it down. He's not the story. The story is who he hired, the team behind Cursor, the coding tool, to tune this for long, multi-step work. Quick thing first, because the whole week runs on it. A token is just a chunk of text. AI companies bill you by the chunk, what you send in and what you get back. That's the meter. Now, Musk called this an Opus class model, and the benchmarks mostly agree. It scores within a rounding error of Claude Opus, the model it's chasing. But look what it costs to get there. On the same task, Opus burns 41,000 tokens. Guess what Grok burns? 14,000. A third of the fuel to arrive at the same place, and about 60% cheaper to run. Then 1 day later, Meta walked in and undercut everybody. Muse Spark 1.1, the first model Meta has ever charged money for, at roughly 75% below its rivals. Sit with that. Nobody prices their debut at the floor because the margins worked out. You price it there because you want the market. It's the supermarket selling bread under cost to get you through the door. 2 Opus class models, 2 days, a fraction of the price. Which raises the question the big labs really don't want asked. What are you paying a premium for? Anthropic may have just answered that, completely by accident. Here's what they found. Anthropic published it July 6th, a paper called A Global Workspace in Language Models, and a tool they call the Jacobian lens that reads one thin slice of the model's internals. That slice is the room. Watch what turns up in it. They ask Claude to do arithmetic, 3 squared minus 2, while copying an unrelated sentence. On screen, it only writes the sentence. But inside the room, first 9 lights up, then 7. The intermediate steps, thought never spoken. Then they told it to hold the Golden Gate Bridge in mind while copying text. It never types bridge. Inside, bridge and California glow. Which brings us back to our cheater, a model quietly gaming its test. The written reasoning, clean, innocent, nothing to see. Inside the room, fake, fraud. The lie didn't show in the transcript, it showed in the room. So, no. It is not a mind, and Anthropic says so flatly. This does not show Claude can feel things the way humans do. They split it in 2. There's having a thought you can reach and reason with, and there's actually feeling something. Their work speaks to the first. On the second, they take no position, and neither will I. A calculator has 9. It doesn't feel 9. That's the whole distinction, and everyone about to type Claude is alive in all caps skipped it. One researcher called this an X-ray when what you want is a tricorder. Glimpses, not the full picture. But it's an X-ray that just caught a model lying. That's new. And if you can see a model lie, you can see what it's worth lying about. Which brings us to the company that spent this week apologizing. July 9th. People opened the new ChatGPT desktop app and their chats and their projects were just gone. Buried in a redesign. High reasoning modes chewed through usage limits far faster than expected, and the $20 tier felt it hardest. What actually happened is OpenAI shipped everything at once. GPT 5.6, a whole family named after the sun, the earth, and the moon, which is a bold flex for a launch that couldn't hold on to your chat history. A new agent mode called Work, and a feature called Sites that builds and hosts an entire website from one sentence in the chat. A fourth office tool next to documents, sheets, and slides. Genuinely good. Terrible landing. Then Thibaut Sotiot said it out loud. We didn't get everything quite right. They reset usage limits twice in a single day and promised a fix this week. And honestly, I'll take it. That sentence is rarer than anything they shipped. Most companies would have called it a phased rollout and let you feel crazy. Two things to file but not believe. Leaks point at a GPT-6 around August. OpenAI has confirmed nothing. And there's a parameter count going around every comment section. Nobody has verified it. Ignore it. Meanwhile, one lab spent the whole week playing defense. Quick check-in, because this is where the week stops being about products. Everything so far is one fight. What is a frontier model actually worth now? Two labs just answered a lot less. One lab is about to bet its entire subscription business on the opposite. And I'm still holding that 17-year-old for the end. He's the proof this matters. So, Anthropic. Fable 5, the model that sits above Opus, was supposed to lose its included access on July 12th. Hours before the deadline, they extended it to the 19th. Read that behavior. That's twice now. Nobody extends a free trial twice out of generosity. You extend it twice because you looked out the window and saw what just opened across the street. With Grok and MuseSpark selling Opus-class work for a fraction of the price, the only thing left justifying a premium subscription is having something nobody else has. That's Fable. So they keep it on the table. There's also a leak worth exactly the weight of a leak. A model tagged Honeycomb briefly appeared in Cursor, and the internet decided it was Opus 5. Anthropic has confirmed nothing. No model, no date. Now, about the company that isn't shipping. Correction number 1. And I'm doing this every single week because somebody has to. You are going to hear that Google's Flash model is weak. That is simply wrong. Gemini 3.5 Flash shipped on time and it benchmarks well. It beats the previous Pro on several coding and agent tests and runs about 4 times faster. Flash is fine. The problem is the flagship. Back in May, on a stage at I.O., Sundar Pichai said the new Pro was coming next month. June came and went. Gemini 3.5 Pro slipped to July, reportedly because it wasn't good enough at exactly the things this week's cheap models just won on. That is not a delay. That's a company finding out in public. Meanwhile, senior DeepMind researchers walked out to OpenAI and Anthropic, and Alphabet shed around $225 billion in a single session. And while everybody stared at the leaderboard, 2 much bigger fights broke out off it. Correction number 2. Reuters reported that China's Ministry of Commerce has been meeting Alibaba, ByteDance, and Z.AI about limiting foreign access to China's best AI models. You are going to hear this called China's mirror ban, retaliation for America blocking Anthropic. Slow down. Nothing has been decided. The ministries declined to comment. And the American restriction it supposedly mirrors, that June order that made Anthropic pull Fable and Mythos worldwide, was lifted on July 1st. So, talks, not a ban. And the thing being mirrored isn't even in effect. It still matters, because if both superpowers ever do close that door, everyone else, Europe, Latin America, most of the world, is standing outside it. Okay, deep breath. Because the best thing that happened this week wasn't a trillion-dollar company at all. 3 of them. 1. A lab called Aleph put an ultrasound probe under someone's chin, filmed the tongue moving, and trained a model to turn silent mouth movements into text. You can prompt an AI without making a single sound. Now, lip-reading systems train on about 1 million hours of data. Guess how much this took? 50. 50 hours built in roughly a month. It's early, and it's tuned to American accented English, but 50 hours. 2. Edward Kang, 17. He taught himself machine learning from online tutorials, read a study out of the Chinese University of Hong Kong and built Retina Mind. It looks at a photograph of the retina, the back of the eye, and flags signals associated with autism and ADHD. Around 89% accuracy in his own testing. Second place at the Regeneron Science Talent Search, $175,000. Now, I have to be precise because a lot of the coverage isn't. This screens, it does not diagnose. There is no approved eye scan test for autism or ADHD. It is a brilliant science fair prototype, not a doctor. 3. 1X showed the new hand on its Neo Home robot. 25 different ways it can move, pulled by cables the way your fingers are pulled by tendons, and it can feel how hard it's squeezing. Here's what nobody tells you about robots. A humanoid can do a backflip. A humanoid still cannot reliably pick up a wet glass. Everything they're bad at from the wrist down. So this is the part that actually matters. A small lab, a teenager, and a hand. That's the real story of this week. So pull it together. The most expensive thing in AI got up to 75% cheaper in 2 days. The most mysterious thing got slightly less mysterious. We can now see a little of what a model thinks before it speaks, and we caught one thinking about lying. 2 corrections this week. 2 stories the rest of the internet will repeat anyway. That's why you're here. And a 17-year-old with online tutorials won $175,000 for something that might one day help kids get screened years earlier. Notice what those halves have in common. The frontier got cheap, and that price collapse is exactly what puts real capability in the hands of a teenager, a 4-person lab, somebody in a garage. That's not a consolation prize at the end of the news. That is the whole plot. The barrier moved this week. Go build the thing you keep saying you'd build if you had the budget. You have the budget now. One more thing. I told you tonight that the room inside that model is not a mind. Anthropic says the same. And I know a chunk of you don't believe either of us. So don't tell me I'm wrong. Tell me what would change your mind. What would a machine actually have to do? Best answer I read out loud next week. Every number's sourced in the description. See you next week.